Good evening, Bloomington!
Special guest with us in the studio this afternoon in the person of one Phil Collins of Genesis.
Good afternoon.
Glad to have you here. Glad to have you back in Indiana. It's been quite a while. I don't
play last time.
I don't know about how often you play up in the Fort Wayne area, but I know it's been about 3.5 years since you were in Indianapolis last.
Was it that long?
Yeah.
Oh.
The last time you were there was when you did the Lamb.
Okay.
The first time.
Well, they liked it so much, we're back.
Right. Return engagement could hardly wait. So, how long has the tour been going on this time?
About 2 weeks, I think.
2 weeks.
Probably maybe 3 weeks. No, 2 weeks. 2 weeks. And we've got another week or so to go.
Pretty short then.
Yeah, well, we're coming back 3 times. You know, this is the first time. We've got another 2 times to come back during the year. The idea is to spend a month doing some of the major places, and then we come back sort of June, July for some open air dates. Not in the same areas, you know. And then later in September, I think we're going to come back and do maybe another month for some of the places we didn't hit the first time around. That way we get a chance to see our family, and we also have maintained momentum, you know, rather than getting sick and tired of it after 2 months. You keep that excitement going for a month, so it's still enjoyable.
Is this the first time you've done the tour this way? Yeah. You used to just sort of go out for 3 months at a time.
Right, yeah. It gets a bit depressing, you know, after 2.5 months into it, all you want to do is go home. But this way, you sort of still got the momentum to play, you know, the need to sort of to do it, as opposed to just want to get home. It's much better.
Well, let's talk about the band, the stage version of the band for a minute.
Why not?
You've got Chester Thompson again.
That's right,
on drums, and Daryl Sturmer, another guitar player. Now,
very good. He's very good. He played with George Duke and Jean-Luc Ponty. Jean-Luc Ponty was in the group since the beginning.
And how did you find him out of all the guitarists that you could have had for?
Well, we went through a lot of thinking about who to have, but we tried looking in England first. But there doesn't really seem to be that many good English players, by comparison anyway. So what with our good experience with Chester, we found that he was perfectly compatible with what we wanted him to do, especially being sort of black American. You know, we thought, well, let's look out for some American players. And originally Alfonso Johnson was going to do the gig. He's a friend of mine, and that's how we got Chester in the first place. And I spoke to him a few times on the phone, and he said, yes, I can play the guitar as well as the bass. So, because we wanted both, because Mike was going to do a bit of both as well. But when he came over to play, he didn't actually play as much guitar as he thought he would be able to. As a lead guitarist, he was pretty limited. But he recommended Daryl, because he knew him. So Mike kind of came over to New York and auditioned him, and a guy called Pat Thrall, and Elliot Randall, those 3 guys. And Daryl was definitely the best.
What were you looking for in a guitar player? All 3 of those guys seem to be sort of jazz rock players.
Yeah, well, it seemed to be that's really where we were heading. There was no conscious effort, because I kind of stepped out of the the way we were looking for drummers, for instance, was that they'd let me look around, and whoever I wanted to have in the band, that would be okay. And with guitarists, we kind of left it to Mike to start off with, to find someone that he could play with, and also had, because he was more in tune with what kind of 12-string technique he thought the group needed. So we left it to him, but it is a bit of a coincidence. I never thought about it before, that he's basically a jazz player, and it's unlikely for Mike to choose a jazz player, because he's not really into that area of music. But he definitely was. He's turned out to be great. He fits in personality-wise. He fits in perfectly.
Back at the last fall, at the time when Steve first left the group, and there were sort of rumors flying around about what you were going to do on the tour. There was one rumor that Anthony Phillips was being considered. Was there any truth to that?
No. There will always be rumors. I don't know. I've never heard that one actually. I've heard other things, but I've never heard that one. It's kind of a logical thing to think of, because he's still in with our management, our management company, and we still sort of see each other. But I think that's past. He's into other things. I don't think he'd like to go on the road actually. And that's why he left the group originally, although it was 7 or 8 years ago and people change. But no, I mean, as soon as Steve left, he left while we were mixing Seconds Out. He rang up one day and said, I think I'm going to leave. So we carried on, and we were kind of ready for it, because all the way through the last European tour, which was the last thing we did, he was saying about wanting to do another album, a solo album, which as long as it could be fitted into the Genesis schedule, everything was okay. We thought we sorted it all out. Was to do a Genesis album first and then do his solo album, so that Genesis got the pick of the material. But I think things started going in his own head, so that he wanted to keep most of his best material for his own album. And of course, that's not really fair. And I think his heart was, was out of the group by that point. And quite honestly, if anyone, is not 100% into it, we'd rather not have him around. So, but anyway, he wasn't pushed. He jumped, And so we had a long time to think about what we were going to do. As I say, we got used to the idea throughout that tour that he was going to leave. So when it did happen, it wasn't really a big surprise, but we had the Seconds Out thing was going to come out, and we had time to actually think about what we did. And we started rehearsing as a 3-piece, and we made a lot of noise as a 3-piece. Mike was playing guitar and bass pedals, and Tony was playing keyboards. And it kind of developed, and we went into the studio in Holland with just the 3 of us, and it started to sound very good. It's a challenge for Mike, because he'd always played guitar and bass, but he'd never played lead guitar. Like with the solos and everything was always Steve's area. And he kind of rose to the occasion, and we had a good time doing it. But I think next time, it's hard to say, it's another year now probably before we make an album, and as to whether Mike will play all the guitar parts in the next album, or whether we'll ask Daryl. I'd like to get Chester on the next album, just the 2 of us. I still consider myself the drummer, so I won't not drum. But I think some things are just as strong with 2 drummers, and much stronger. So maybe he'll be on the next album. And it's really down to Mike as to whether he thinks he's progressed and whether he still wants to do it.
Now, Mike and Daryl are trading off on guitar and bass on stage, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to get an idea of maybe how you decided, or which tunes Mike is playing bass on as opposed to guitar.
Mike is playing lead guitar on most of the new songs. In fact, all the new songs. It's just the old songs that he had bass parts for. So Daryl has kind of learned Steve's things, and by now they've progressed into sort of something else, and it was just a stepping off point for him to know what to do, and then so he's improvising a lot more now. But some things, like on Dance on a Volcano, for instance, in Los Endos. Dance on a Volcano, there's 2 guitars going, and Mike's playing bass pedals. So it's like it used to be, really, the balance. Except Mike never used to play guitar, but it's just the new songs that he's playing lead guitar.
Is there more improvisation going on stage now than there used to be? I know 4 years ago we listened to a 4-year-old interview with you and Mike earlier in the week, and Mike at the time said that it was something that was going to have to come with time and confidence with playing on stage, and that nobody except at the time you and Steve were really stage performers and could feel comfortable improvising.
Was this during Selling England, was it?
Yeah.
Well, on the Lamb, of course, we did quite a lot of improvising. There was the waiting room, which was a big thing for us, and it was different every night. It was just at a starting point and an ending point, and we went via whichever route we wanted to. So that was improvised, and there was a couple of other sections on that, like Silence, Sorrow, and Empty Boats. That was kind of free soundtrack sort of thing. I don't know if there's improvisation within the framework that we play in. For instance, Daryl's guitar solos, we play The Fountain of Salmacis, which is an old tune, and The Lady Lies off this album, which have both got guitar solos on. And Daryl changes those, nightly, and the lengths sometimes vary. But I Know What I Like has developed into a tune with a lot of improvisation at the end. It kind of gets longer every tour. But there aren't that many parts that we can blow on, really.
I
Not
know
so
what
much now.
I know what I like. Seems like this is your life tune because
Yeah, we go through
you
that.
keep dropping in those old themes in there.
Yeah,
Is-
well, they become part of the tune now. I mean, stagnation, a part of stagnation is here to stay. Hey, there used to be a bit more of that. Oh, dear, I saw that needle go
Oh,
over.
it's
there used to be a bit more of that.
We'll get some limiters in a couple of years.
Okay.
By the time you come back to Indiana, we'll be ready for it.
With Steve, and he used to, like him and Tony used to trade off all the old favourites, but of course Darryl doesn't know so many of those, the old tunes. But it's just improvising in a different area now. It's just improvisation, from the word go.
I want to take a break here and play another cut off of the album, and then we'll come back in a few minutes and talk some more with Phil Collins, who is in town for the Genesis concert tonight. You are going to the concert, aren't you?
I'm going, yeah.
You're going to be there?
I don't know how many other people are going to be there. Listen, you guys, you get out there and come, yo.
There's lots of tickets left.
Yeah.
We're talking with Phil Collins of the group. He's graciously given us some of his time this afternoon before they have to go over for their sound check, and the mic is sounding much better now. People agitating in the background for me to ask you what it was like to play with Bill Bruford.
Good old Bill, yeah. Well, he was in a big group before I was, you see, and he was always one of my idols. I mean, as far as English drummers go, I think he's probably one of the best. And so when I kind of jumped at the chance to get him in the group, because I was playing with Brand X and he was playing percussion with Brand X. That was before we made a record. Oh no, it was after we made a record, but before we actually got the full-time guy, Maurice Pert. And he played with us, and he heard that we were looking for a drummer, but I hadn't thought of asking him because I didn't think he'd be into the gig. I thought it was into National Health, which is his group, or was his group. And he said, yeah, well, ask me because I'd like to do it. So I said, well, you'd like to do it, Bill? And he said, sure. So he came down, had a blow, and then that was it. But as far as playing with him, it was I have fond memories of it, but at the same time, it was early days for two drummers, It was, because playing together, you have to have a lot of discipline. And you have to not play the same things every night, but you have to adopt a certain kind of attitude towards your playing, that you can't do anything that's too far out. Otherwise, you're going to lose the other guy. And also, if you both do something at the same time, it's going to sound terrible. So with Chester, say, we have this, especially now, we have this sort of mental thing where I know when he's going to play something, so I'll lay back and vice versa. And we also work out a lot more tighter things than we did with Bill. But for other reasons, it was good having Bill around.
Why was there more Thompson stuff on Seconds Out than Bruford?
Well, the songs sounded better. They sounded a lot. The more recent versions sounded better than the versions that were a year older. I mean, we mixed versions of Firth to Fifth, Los Endos, I Know What I Like, with Bill playing, but it just everything sounded a lot thinner, and the actual sounds that we had on tape weren't quite as good. Whereas we had a lot of time in Paris when we recorded 5 shows with Chester to really get the sounds a lot better. The keyboard sounded a lot better. I was singing a lot better a year on. I mean, my singing improves yearly, because I'm just trying to catch up on the singers that have been singing all their lives. So I'm trying to get better all the time, and Chester just was a lot more solid than Bill was. He was better for things like Squonk and Supper's Ready. He just added a lot more weight to the group than which is what we needed, really, that Bill didn't. But we never did Cinema Show with the Chester. We're doing it this tour, but we never recorded it with Chester, so that's why that track is on the album. And we did White Mountain as well, which we recorded and mixed, which will hopefully turn up on a B-side somewhere because it's a good cut. It really sounded good with Bill. He had a lot of dramatic percussion.
To touch back on Brand X for a minute, you mentioned them. Are you still active or semi-active with them, or are you sort of leaving everything to
I'm
Denard
dormant
now?
at the moment as far as Brand X. I see, I'm still in the group, but they have a situation whereby they are becoming quite popular, and they have to work. They can't just wait for me to stop touring with Genesis before they work. So there's kind of an interim period last year when they had a drummer that was going to go out on the road with them and play. And I was going to do the albums, but they found that they couldn't get anybody that was that good enough to just do the touring and not want to do the album. So now I've sort of stepped out of that situation. So the next drummer, whose name is Chuck, whose last name I can never remember, but it's Chuck, and he played with Al Di Meola for quite a while, so he was a good player. He's playing drums with them, and in the end of this month they go and record in London. So I won't be on the album, but I mean, it's an unwritten law in the band that when I want to come back, they want me back, you know, because we all agree that the original chemistry is the one that makes, you know, that makes the most sense.
And back again to, you mentioned the possibility of putting White Mountain on the B-side of a single. That's something that you seem to do every once in a while, is collect up old tracks that you've gotten recorded and have never gotten around to releasing on an album. You'll put them out on a single or something.
Yeah. There's a couple on this album, actually, we had left over. And it's not really a question of them being B tracks. It's an album kind of takes its own shape, you know. Certain tracks sound like they're going to be on the album because their particular style in that, you know, in that particular style of song is needed to make the album around, you know, sort of a lot of dynamics, a lot of variation. So we end up with tracks left over that didn't fit into the concept of the album, but are still good tracks. And there was one, Inside and Out, which is on the other side of this new single, Follow You, Follow Me, we got out. There's another song which is called It's Yourself, which is on the other side, which we recorded at the Trick of the Tail period. There's two other songs when we did Wind and Wuthering, one of which was Inside and Out. There's two others, Pigeons and Match of the Day, right, which were released in England on an EP, but American record companies don't know how to deal with EPs, and so they never put it out. You know.
There were a few copies of it that drifted across the Atlantic that have been picked up as imports. It's Yourself, I thought, was an interesting tune because of that.
Los Endos. Well, that was that song was almost doomed from the start because we had a nice little song, you know, the actual song part of it. I like. I mean, I wrote the lyrics to it, and I kind of felt very, very close to it. But it also had the other half of it was like improvised, you know, and Los Endos started from that piece in that song, the slow, spacey bit.
The middle of that song became the beginning of...
Yeah, we just thought that that wasn't going to go on the album. Los Endos would sound better coming out of the spacey bit, you know, so we just lifted the spacey bit out and then bang into Los Endos, and it worked on the album, but you know, it couldn't have gone on the album with that as well.
Do you ever do any of those tunes on stage? Anything that hasn't been on an album as such?
No, Inside and Out we did. We went to Brazil last year, and we did it there because we were basically trying to work it into the set so that we could record it and see if it could go on Seconds Out. But we never put it on record. We never put it on Seconds Out anyway, because it never really sounded as good as it did on the record. You know, sometimes these songs, you play them and they never really sound as good as the original version, and others supersede the original version, like Firth of Fifth and Supper's Ready on Seconds Out, for instance, are much better than the recorded versions, which appeared on the earlier albums. You know?
Yeah, it's gone from the stage where something like Twilight Ale House, you once said, used to be a popular stage number. It was something that you did on stage and then finally recorded.
Well, that was the days when we rehearsed periodically, you know, and did gigs in the middle. So you were building up songs all the time. So you could get a stage favourite before you went into the studio. I mean, Twilight Ale House was a song that was played before I joined the group, and we never got around to recording it until Foxtrot, anyway. And nowadays, you know, we have to go into the rehearsal room and write the music. Well, some music's written in the rehearsal room. Sometimes it's written at home individually. You know? And then we have to record it, and then we go out on the road and play it. It's that kind of routine, as opposed to, you know, like we used to play Musical Box for a long, long time before we recorded it, so that when the album was released, people knew what the song was about, and they'd go out and buy it, and it was like a old stage favourite, you know. Whereas now it's the other way around. I mean, we're playing songs on this tour that people haven't heard because they haven't got the album yet. But we're trying to get the album to as many places as we can that we're playing, you know. I mean, I don't know how many people are going to have it tonight, but I've got it anyway.
He's got one. Jim has it. We have. How has the actual songwriting process changed within the band since everything used to be credited to Genesis collectively, and now you're each taking individual songwriting credits? But how much has it actually changed from the point where somebody will have a bit of music that they'll bring into the rehearsal room and it gets changed?
Well, even in the old days, it used to be there used to be quite a degree of someone bringing in a finished song or half finished. Like Firth the Fifth, for instance, was a Genesis composition, but all the pieces in it was Tony's. You know, let me think. Counting Out Time was Peter's song, but it still got a Genesis credit because it was a lot easier in those. I mean, we used to do a lot more group composition in those days. That's true, but there still used to be the element of people writing on their own individually, and now we just thought that when Peter left, we'd just change up the way of thinking. You know, just change everything. We changed producers, changed studios, and we thought, okay, well now Peter's gone. Why don't we just show people exactly who does what? You know, because there was always a misconception that Peter did everything, and so we thought, well, now we'll just show people who does what. So the balance is almost the same. I mean, Tony is quite a sort of a major contributor of material, and Mike probably second, and I'm third, I would think. But we still do a lot of writing together. That is someone bringing in a chorus. I mean, this album particularly has got quite a lot of joint compositions as opposed to the last album. You know, we just bring in, I got a verse and a chorus, and Tony's got a middle bit, and Mike's got a tune, so it all comes together as a group song. So we still want to keep that side of it together, you know, the sort of the group composition. But more and more, we're writing individually. You know, I mean, when you've got 2 or 3 months at home, you tend to write songs on the piano or whatever.
When you're writing a song, does the music tend to come before the lyrics materialize? Always.
I mean, I can't think of any example of a song lyrically first. It's always the music.
How about, do you know if it's the same with Tony and Mike?
Oh yeah, no, as a group, that's the way it always works. We get the music, and then the lyrics are usually written to fit in with the music. Like the vibe of the music. For instance, the Ballad of Big, right? Now that's a song that I wrote the lyrics to, and I just felt it should be kind of a Western song, you know, and so I wrote the lyrics with that in mind. I just didn't, you know, it's always done that way around, because I think the music is almost 55% more important than the lyrics to us.
Do you get inspirations from lyrics from anything particular that goes on, or is it just...
We very rarely write human dramas, you know. It's usually stories or fantasy. There's very little social comment. I mean, and if we do social comment, it's usually like humorous. Like Get 'Em Out by Friday was a good example of, you know, something that was happening, but it was just looked at in a humorous way, rather than, ooh, you know. And Down and Out actually is a track on this. I wrote the lyrics to that, and that's basically an experience that we've had with some people in the business. That you know, I mean, if you read the lyrics, you'll understand what I mean. It's just basically the kind of the false vibe that goes on in this business, and every now and again we hit on lyrics that are basically related to life, but usually it's escape or entertainment, you know, like stories, fairy tales, whatever.
Okay, how about the song that we're going to hear next, The Lady Lies? What was that?
Well, this is one of Tony's. It's basically a bit of melodrama, you know, Genesis melodrama. We always try and do something like this. It's the story of a chappie that is lured by a very nice lady, who in turn turns out to be not a very nice lady. I mean, the lyrics on this album actually are probably more self-explanatory than any of our other albums, but it's a bit of melodrama. It's you listen.
Okay.
Just see.
The major direction of music over the next couple of years, or where do you think things are going? Radio is cutting down again, where it's hard to get a new record played on the radio, and
yeah, a lot of FM stations seem to be going towards AM a bit more. Right? I don't know what the future of music is. I mean, God knows. We kind of always do what we do, you know. Ladies just falling to pieces. No, we've always done what we do, and trends have come and gone, and we've just carried on, you know. And I think that's what we'll do. And we've never really been swayed by fashions. But I would like to think that people like Weather Report and the Brand X's of this world have a bigger future, you know. Can appeal to more people. But that is pure optimism, I think.
Yeah. How about the future of Genesis?
Future Genesis, well,
5 to 4 to 3.
Oh, after that, who knows? I think that, the next one down is the last one to go.
Steely Dan or something.
No, see, that's a good Steely Dan, an example of a band that's just shrunk to a unit that makes records. And if they were to go out on the road, they get the people they want to go out on the road with and do the gigs. The Beach Boys used to do that. You know, they make records, and then when they tour, they get the people in to do the gigs. And that's where I think we're kind of developing. You know, I mean, 1979, I don't think we're going to be playing that much. We'd do some gigs, and we'd probably come here. But I don't really see us working our things off like we are this year. You know, we're going to playing a lot of places this year. And as long as everyone is, you know, mentally sensible about it, we can stay together and make music. I mean, there's no way that band is on its last legs. I mean, these personnel changes will kick up the bum, you know. I don't know what I can say on radio. And you know, it keeps us fresh, all these changes. It's good when someone drops out.
Are there any other thoughts of more solo albums from people? Is Mike working on anything, or Tony outside of the band?
No, I mean, everyone's got enough material to do one. It's just a question of what to do. As I say, 1979, we'll make an album as a band. We'll do that early in the year, I would think, and then we'll take some time off. I want to tour with Brand X. I want to come over here and play with them, which I haven't done yet. That's one of my ambitions. And I think I'd like to start thinking about making my own album. You know, I mean, I play on everybody else's. I might as well play on my own. You know? And I've got lots of stuff that I want to use that Genesis haven't used and Brand X haven't used, and I'm writing as well. So that's what I'll be doing, and I would imagine that each one of us will think in those areas, you know, as well as trying to keep the group together.
What sort of people would you want to have playing on your solo album?
Oh, I'll get all the West Coast boys, mate. I've got Al Johnston, Chester. I'll aim for all those guys, you know, all the guys that I listen to. But at the same time, it won't be just jazz. It will be an area of that, like the Brand X sort of area. And then it will be Eno. I'm very, I feel strong feelings towards his music, you know, the way he approaches things, like with just soundtracks, 2 or 3 minute soundtracks, moods. And Fripp, for instance, I did some stuff with Fripp recently on his album. He's doing an album. And that'll be as kind of soundtracks and loops and stuff, right? And there'll be straight songs, 3 minute songs that I've written that aren't jazz, and they aren't, you know. It'll be a very diverse album, I think. But hopefully it'll be good, otherwise it won't come out.
Okay. Well, I think we're about talked you out.
I've got to sing tonight as well.
Yeah, that's right. We're going to close out with another cut from And Then There Were Three, and then turn the controls back over to Bert, who graciously gave up half of his show so that we could do this interview. Remind you again, the show is tonight at 8 o'clock, I guess. Maybe 7:30. Be there at 7:30 so you don't miss anything.
Be there is the most important thing.
Be there, yes.
Come.
The concert is not, repeat, not, sold out. Some people have assumed, some people have just assumed from hearsay or whatever that just because Genesis is here, they're automatically sold out already and they won't be able to get a ticket, or there are no good seats left. There are tickets left. It's going to be a long show, good lights, and what was the other? Well, the other.
Well, musicians.
Oh yeah, the
good
hall.
Music, hopefully.
The hall. Some people, I guess, have something against Assembly Hall, but it's going to be in a half hall. Which, if you saw Santana last year, it's the same sort of setup, even a little better setup than it was for Santana, because they sort of had last-minute changes. But Assembly Hall tonight should sound better than it has sounded in the past. So if that was what was worrying you, don't worry about it. Tonight, in the Assembly
Hall. Sunday night, anyhow. There can't be that much happening on Sunday night, is there? No, there's not much happening. Come on down.
Not that much happens around here anyway.
All right. Well,
What
hope to
other
see you
excuse?
at the show. And thanks to Phil Collins for coming down and being with us this afternoon. And this is from And Then There Were Three. This is the single.
Thanks for having me. It's
Follow
been
You,
nice.
Follow Me, Genesis.